Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings. Namaste and greetings. As we quickly approach the end of July, my oh my, how time does fly. But this week we continue our discussion about practice makes imperfect. And today specifically, imperfect practices. So we're going to dive deeper into this concept of what it means to embrace imperfection. But we're embracing it as a transformational, transformative shift in consciousness and in our perception and our perspectives. So we're going to explore the profound possibilities that arise when we are willing, when we step into the space of what it means to be imperfect. In that space, greater possibilities arise. In that space, greater creative energies arise. But if we don't go into that space, then the status quo of stagnation and the fear of making a mistake holds us back. It blocks us from growing and creating. So understanding that everything in this thing called life involves all kinds of things, flaws, mistakes, errors, etc. That's why on a keyboard, we have a delete button, backspace and delete. That's why a pencil has an eraser and more. Breathe. So when we embrace, when we willingly step into the space of, I am willing, I know that in the absolute, the truth of my being, I am whole, I am perfect, and I am complete. And while living this thing called life, there are going to be what we'll call missteps, mishaps, mistakes. And I accept that and continue to navigate forward nonetheless, to create nonetheless. Every time a potter, clay on the wheel, there is no guarantee that that will come out to be a quote unquote perfect pot. There are many mishaps and mistakes that the potter starts over again. They scrape the clay off, they and throw it again and start all over. In order, I'm sure you know what martial arts are, in order for the martial artist, the student, to be able to break a board, to show great skill, they have to start with the ability of not being able to break the board. Now, is not breaking the board making a mistake? No, it's part of the learning process. But many of us interpret my inability to get this perfect, my inability to get this right, causes me to not even bother to try. Do or do not. There is no try. I hear you, Yoda, but right now we're going to talk about trying. Many of us will not bother to engage in whatever it is. If I can't do it perfectly, I don't want to do it at all. Have you ever heard the quote that says, paraphrasing, the expert or the master has failed more times then the novice is even willing to try. Or let's remix it. The master has failed more times than the novice has gotten things perfect. Mastery involves mistakes. Mastery involves change. Many who are stuck in the energy of perfectionism are unwilling to change. Change is risky. Dr. Holmes invites, we cannot change the fact that whatever we put into mind will be reflected back to us. Whatever we put into mind, we're going to remix this. But we can change that which is reflected. We can uproot the old, we can implant the new, we can neutralize what already is there. Okay. Ready to remix? Let's do it. We cannot change the fact that whatever we as a collective have and continue to put into mind will be reflected back to us in some way or another. Whatever we as a collective have put into place, have put into mind, and what we continue as a collective continue to put in mind, continue to act upon, it's going to be reflected. War, at some point in the history of humankind, became a thing. And for as long as that which was put into the law of mind and action, for as long as that mental equivalent, which was, is, continues to be, we will continue to see war acted out. Sexism, sexism, sexism. If we want this to change, we have to change it. If we want different individual experiences, if we want different collective experiences, we must change what is reflected, what is experienced, what is manifested by implanting new, healthier, more life-affirming mental equivalents. So we want to experience peace on earth, then we have to develop a mental equivalent of peace on earth. Not a mental equivalent that is void of war, but a mental equivalent that is of peace. We want sexism to end, toxic patriarchy, then we need a mental equivalent of gender equality, harmonious and balanced gender expression. But in order to do that, something has to change. The mental equivalent we have right now has to change. The thoughts, the beliefs, the way we communicate, our emotions and feelings, and our actions that are aligned with this old stuff has to be released, transformed, changed in some way to a new mental equivalent in order to have a different experience, a new experience. In the same way that someone moves into their brand new home, family just bought their first home together as a family, and they inherited the house, the conditions of the house, quote unquote. They inherited the condition of the lawn, the backyard, the garden. They inherited it. They didn't build the house, they bought the house. Someone else built the house. Someone may have lived in the house before them. And now they have it. And they look around and it's, I don't like this wall that's here. It separates the dining room and living room. Let's get rid of the wall. I don't like the landscaping of the lawn or the back front yard or backyard. I don't like it. So let's change it. Before, during, what do we want there to be as the after? Before, the paradigm and consciousness of war. The during, yeah, war. The after, peace. Then what are we invited to change? What mental equivalent creates individual peace, collective peace, global peace? What are the seeds that we are invited to plant in order to grow, manifest, create a different garden of life experience? If we can't identify the seeds, then chances are we are going to continue to operate based upon the status quo of what was, allowing it to be what is, which by default will continue to be what will be. Eckhart Tolle says, when challenges come, as they always do, make it a habit to go within at once and focus as much as you can on the inner energy field of your body. Attention is the key to transformation. And full attention also implies some level of acceptance. Attention is like a beam of light, the focused power of your consciousness that transmutes everything into itself. Okay, so what does that mean for us? Well, let's ask the question, why do adults play tic-tac-toe or checkers, the Japanese game Go, or chess? Why? Because they're easy? Maybe. I mean, tic-tac-toe, it's relatively easy. But is there not some kind of strategy involved? Do you just willy-nilly XO, XXOO, XXO? Or do you look at and strategize? If I put X there, or they put O there. So my next option, if I want to quote unquote win, then I must strategy. If you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that every time you sat down to play chess, you were going to win, would it be fun anymore? There's no challenge anymore. You're going to win. See, part of why we play games, as much as we may not want to admit it, part of why we root for our favorite baseball team is because in the playing of the game, there is the challenge and the possibility of who will win and who will lose. And I'm not referring to the toxic competition, simply talking about the competition that brings us joy by playing the game, not betting money on the game, simply enjoying the viewing, enjoying the cheering, enjoying the neck and neck. Who's going to make the next touchdown, the next home run, the next goal? Oh, man, oh, this is a close game. Challenge. And yet, because of this thing called perfectionism, when challenge shows up in our lives, the challenge of how do I start my book? writer's block. I'm gonna go watch TV. The challenge of, so there's an open mic night and I'd like to go do comedy, but hecklers, fear. I'm gonna go watch TV. I'm gonna just mindlessly scroll, like, scroll, like, scroll, scroll. Frowny emoji, scroll. It's easier. But if we're going to live our lives successfully, then we must learn how to navigate it successfully. What are the tools that help us to understand the challenge and then accept the challenge and then effectively navigate the challenge? Whatever that challenge may be. The challenge for some, navigating morning rush hour traffic. The challenge for some, noticing how many crumbs Reverend Ray left on the sofa and the floor beneath his feet because he refuses to use a tray. Challenge. The challenge of interpreting for Reverend Ray because he refuses to take a breath and pause and allow the interpreter time to catch up. Challenge is a part of life, and challenge doesn't mean bad or non-life affirming. Lifting weights is a challenge. You are challenging the muscle through the process of practicing the curl, which strengthens the muscle as a result of accepting the challenge. Perfectionism would have us avoid challenges for fear of failure. So we want a better life, a more effective life, a more joyous life. Then accept the challenge that comes with manifesting that. Parker Palmer invites us, the people who help us grow toward true self offer unconditional love. Pause. The people who help us grow toward true self, they offer us unconditional love. They do not judge us to be deficient, nor are they trying to force us to be something other than what we are. They don't force us to change, but they accept us exactly as we are. They surround us. This energy of unconditional love surrounds us with a charged force, a charged energy field that makes us want to evolve, want to grow from the inside, quote, linguistic convenience, to grow from the inside out, meaning from our inner landscape to our outer experience. Because I can think joy, but if I don't say it, for example, let's try this. I'm going to think a word. What word am I thinking? See, it's going through me internally. It's my inner dialogue. But if I don't bring it to the outside by saying it, love, by expressing it, then it remains simply an internal, whatever that is, internal dialogue, internal marination, contemplation, consideration, but it remains inside. In the same way that if there's a cookbook that I never open, The recipes remain inside the cookbook. And even if I do open it and read it, in essence, the recipe is still remaining in the book or in my mind until such time as I bring it to the external, the outside, by cooking it and preparing it, serving it and eating it. So, who are the people that unconditionally love you? Who are the people that surround you in that energy field that encourages you to change, to evolve, to grow? Who are those people? Are you that person for someone else? And let's suppose one, no, I'm not that person. I judge people far too much. I'm too critical, I'm too judgmental. I'm Why are you doing that? That's wrong. That's not how you do that. Oh my goodness. What is the common sense people come? That's not going to encourage someone to grow, evolve, change. What will encourage? What will encourage you? What would someone need to do or say or just be that would inspire and encourage you to change, to grow, to evolve, both internally and externally? What is that energy that will do that for you? And do you have that? Because if you don't, what are you invited to do to have it? William Pollard says, without change, there is no innovation. There is no creativity. There is no incentive for improvement without change. And those who initiate change will have a better opportunity to manage the change that is inevitable. Not just possible, but inevitable. In what way do you initiate change? Initiate change regarding what? What is the inevitable thing that you desire to experience? What is your mental equivalent to ensure that this occurs? Now, I know a lot of us, we don't like the idea of change. We are creatures of habit. Heraclitus says the only constant in life is change. Change is inevitable. Everything flows, everything changes, everything is transient, impermanence. That's why, the song, what goes up must come down. It's the wrong tune, but oh well. Right? What goes up, gravity's going to bring it back down. It's inevitable. You can't step into the same river twice. It's flowing because both you and the river have changed. Flow, change. The Tao of life is change. How can you resist it? A lot of people resist aging, for example. We will, and no shade regarding it if it's what people do, but if you're attempting to change or somehow prevent, well, I don't want wrinkles, so I'm going to facelift. Well, at some point, you're going to have to accept that no amount of continued plastic surgery is going to prevent. At some point, no amount of dying, the body is still changing. You can hide behind dyed hair, facelift, tummy tucks. We can hide behind that stuff. Or maybe it's not hiding. We will, whatever that is, whatever it is. But changing the color of my hair doesn't change the fact that the truth of my hair is gray. Changing and getting a tummy tuck doesn't change the fact that I still eat a dozen donuts every other day. So rather than seeking to avoid change, why not embrace it and live our best by surfing it, by navigating it? Stephen Covey says every human has four endowments: self awareness, conscience, independent will, and creative imagination. These four endowments give us the ultimate human freedom, which is the power to choose, the power to respond, and the power to change. How do these four endowments show up in your life? How are you engaging and embodying these four endowments in order to have access to your ultimate human freedom? Your freedom to choose, your freedom to respond, and your freedom to change or evolve, even within a system that may not want you to do that. Harriet Tubman she chose to risk her life for emancipation. She chose to respond to this institutional thing called slavery by returning to help others be emancipated. She engaged and embodied her ultimate human freedom, even in the system of. And so while we cannot legislate compassion and legislate certain in the heart space, equity and justice, etc., can't legislate it in someone's heart, we can legislate it in our laws and our policies and our practices, but we can't legislate it here. So our invitation is, where in me do I need to be to express greater self-awareness, greater independent will? Because see, the more we do it, the more we show up in, through, and as it, the more it changes. In the same way that those people with unconditional love, when we have the unconditional energy of equity, it comes off of us, it radiates off of us like a perfume, and it changes those we come in contact with, whether we realize it or not. They're changed some way, shape, or form. They can't help but to be. Now, that does not mean that just by being in the room with someone who is racist, my presence will automatically make them not be racist. Yeah, no. Doesn't quite work that way. But my presence, my energy impacts them. It has to. We know that if I don't put deodorant on and I walk into a room after a long day of work and sweat, I don't have to do anything. The aroma reaches other people's noses. Ooh, who's cutting onions? It's going to impact them one way, shape, or form. Breathe. So when you look at this image that's on the screen, what is the common denominator and what do you see? Right? It's the yellow brick road. And we see where it starts and we follow the process, eventually getting to a destination, but the destination isn't the end. And oftentimes when we do this thing with procrastination, we're procrastinating because we act like the end goal is the end, and it's not. You ask someone, so What do you want to do with your life? I want to get a degree in education. That's all? So you got your degree. Now what? Well, I'm going to go teach. Well, then getting the degree wasn't the end goal. It was a step in the grand. And even once you get the degree and you become a teacher, becoming a teacher isn't the end, because now you are teaching. Now you are impacting the lives of your students, and your life is being impacted by them. So, in the grand scheme of things, we all want to live a life to its fullest, to live our lives to the fullest with joy and love and all of these other qualities of God. And these are the things that get us to that: teaching, dancing, singing, starting our own business, whatever that is. All of it starts with follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. One step by another step by another step. But in order for the sculptor to have a statue, something must change. The marble must be hit and chipped away. In order for the potter to create whatever that is, a pot, a bowl, a ceramic, whatever, the lump of clay must be changed. The blank canvas must get a mark of paint in order for the painting to become whatever it's going to become. We must be willing to change. George Bernard Shaw says, progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Remix. To become a painting, as I said, the blank canvas must be changed. To become a sculpture, the clay must be altered. To be a song, the notes must be sung or played. And if we are to create a world that works for all, something must change. Creation, evolution, manifestation is impossible without change. And those who cannot or will not change their mental equivalents cannot and will not change anything in meaningful and life affirming ways. If we want to change, if we want to have an experience, whatever this is, then something must change. If you want to keep getting what you're getting, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want something new, you have to be something new. Now, if you're new to CSL, Science of Mind and Spirit, religious science, you may have no idea what this is. But for those of you who do, what is this? It's the teaching symbols. The teaching symbol created by the founder, Ernest Holmes, used to demonstrate the creative process, to demonstrate and talk about the various aspects of God and creation. And as you'll notice, there are different segments within this. And it talks about how form is created first in spirit, then in soul, then in the realm of effect. Change, change, change. Energy moves from mind to law to body. Change. Are we willing to engage in the process to experience what we desire to have and experience? Because when we truly study, practice, and embody the science of mind and spirit as a way of life, then we recognize the importance of the creative chaos. We recognize the importance of the mystery of the unknown, the gift of the happy accidents. We recognize the importance of these things. It is in this space that we create a life that works for us and a world that works for all. Without needing to get it all perfect, what needs to get done gets done perfectly in vastly imperfect ways. Breathe that in. We explore, we experiment, we entertain possibilities, and we expand into the field of joyful, imaginative, and imperfect expression of life as our amen. We draw, we erase. We draw again until the drawing at last says yes, until the song says yes, until the whatever it is says yes. We do, we change, we chip, we refold, we reform, we reconstruct, we renovate until such time as now the painting is complete, the novel is done, the workshop curriculum says yes. And the whole process begins again, just like breath, and again with the next drawing, the next song, the next sentence, the next book, the next whatever it is, because that's what life is. Never ending, ever expanding consciousness. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, say it with me the second time around. I embrace imperfection, knowing it is one of the best parts of life. You know what? Actually, and I think this might be one of the first times I've ever done this, but I want to remix the affirmation, our declaration. I mean, this is fine, but let's expand it. Embrace the unknown and the process of making mistakes, knowing this is the practice and the process of living my best life. Together, I embrace the unknown and the process of making mistakes, knowing this is the practice and process of living my best life. So it is. This week's Thursday night study group questions or your own individual journal questions. What does vulnerability mean to me? Ask yourself, what does vulnerability mean to me? How comfortable am I with being vulnerable and showing my imperfections to others? And while we're talking about showing them, what is an example of one of those imperfections? Years ago, I used to have a chipped tooth and I would smile differently or, cover it in some way. I would do a Miss Seeley and hide my face when I smiled or laughed because I didn't want people to see the chipped tooth or make fun of the chipped tooth. Till such time I said, you know what? The hell with it. It's a chipped tooth. It's in my mouth. I'm going to laugh and I'm going to smile and you say whatever you want to say. You can call me a vampire or snaggletooth. I don't care. I was willing to be vulnerable and let people see the chipped tooth. So what's an example? Number two, In what ways can embracing imperfection, embracing vulnerability, and authenticity contribute to my overall well being in my relationships as well? So, my overall well being and the overall well being in my relationships with family, with friends, even with strangers. How can what you're asking yourself, how can or the process of me embracing imperfection, embracing vulnerability, and embracing authenticity, how does it contribute to all of this? How does this impact my self esteem? How does it impact my self worth? How does it impact my self care? How does it impact my sense of fulfillment in this thing called life? Does it impact my ability to connect with others on a deeper level in more meaningful ways? Lastly, what practical steps can I take to embrace my imperfections, to feel safe to be vulnerable, and to foster an environment where everyone feels valued and supported? Matter of fact, what makes me feel valued and supported? Breathe as we enter into that space that we refer to as prayer, while also realizing and understanding that the way we live our life is prayer. Prayer is simply that recognition and embodiment of who and what we are, who and what we are choosing to be. This is why we desire and practice greater self awareness, so that we are not bound or limited by the concept of, I am just my body, I am just a father or parent, I am just an employee, I am that and so much more than I can even name. And my self awareness gives the expansive awareness to knowing the truth of my being and living in that truth, living as that truth, letting that truth live as me. So prayer is the way that we show up. Prayer is the way that we walk the walk, whatever that walk may be. For some, they are walking the walk of worry. For others, they are walking the walk of warmongering. So their lives are what we might refer to as non life affirming prayer. In the same way that there is life affirming affirmation, I am beautiful, and non life affirming affirmation, I am ugly. Both are affirmations. Both are statements of what I believe to be true. And yet one of them is the undesired. And yet both are prayer. Both are affirmations. Both are declarations of energy. So the invitation in this moment right now is to choose what type of prayer, what energy of prayer do I choose to live into? I choose to live into the affirmation, the declaration, and the prayer of the truth of my being. I am whole, I am perfect, and I am complete. Even when using the eraser, even when starting over with the lump of clay, even when the mistakes are made. Nonetheless, I step into the realm of the energy of the infinite creative chaos, the infinite mystery where all things are possible. And I, through my self awareness, select and choose and walk and talk and believe and feel what I choose in order to change the outcome, change the manifestation, change the experience. I navigate it differently. I steward this thing called life differently. And in so doing, I accept the paradox of being perfect and making mistakes, of being whole and occasionally feeling incomplete. Both and. But I live from the awareness. I live with the embodied, the convicted, embodied awareness of the truth of my being. And as I say this, I know that this is what we are all right here, right now, feeling, moving, transforming into in audacious, radical, and transformative ways. ART is what our lives are, works of art. And like any work of art, we tune the guitar, we tune the piano, we prep our paints and our brushes, the canvas, we strategize, we plan, and then we act to create the masterpiece that is our life, that is this thing called life. The law says yes. The law says amen. And it does what it does to create, to manifest, to move from mind to soul to effect. It does what it does. That in between space where it recedes from spirit into law and then into form. So knowing that the law is doing what it does, knowing that the prayer is already manifested, there is only one mind and that mind is God. And this that we are speaking of already exists in the one mind, complete. That means it's done. It's already so. Together we say, and so it is. And so it is. Breathe. Much love, joy, and appreciation for those of you who are joining us for After Message Fellowship. See you over in Zoom. Other than that, have an amazing, beautiful, and powerfully imperfect week. Love and appreciate you.